So welcome to the Results Rules OK workshop, Leadership for Business Owners. And this is something I found, and actually it was shown to me this morning, twice today, actually, in that as business owners, we've got to have a separate, different sort of style of leadership than 90% of the business books and all the contemporary theories and themes out there, because stuff happens in our businesses that we need to be able to manage and lead through, and there are different categories of leadership we need to contend with, and it can be really challenging. So I thought I'd put this workshop together specifically for business owners, some tips and ideas and things you can take away. We're going to have a breakout after about 35-40 minutes. I invite you to go into groups and then come back and compare notes and a Q&A, and we'll be done in about an hour and a half. So I hope that's okay. For those people who are new to the group or new to the gang or watching the video on YouTube, this is where we are based. We are here on that little blue pin, right on we're in France on the German border. And our offices are in Luxembourg, which is just up the road a little bit, just there, just outside Schengen, a place called Remechen. And we have offices also over in the UK, in Swindon as well. So that's our empire. And we run courses and workshops, business executive coaching, as most of you know, from the desk here, our office in Luxembourg, or even over in the UK as well. At the moment, we've got clients, or we have clients on our books in 34 countries all over the world, a variety of sectors, all sorts of sectors. You can see from this conversation, we've got people here from the franchise business, the relocations business, the martial arts business. We've got people from all over the world. We've got a dating agency on the books as well. Hi, Claudia, good to see you, based over in Germany and Luxembourg as well. So a variety of people. And what I've put this workshop together for is based on all that experience that we have working with a variety of people in different areas, the common traits, if you like, the common challenges that people find in leadership when they're growing their own business. Any questions you have as we go along, please put it onto the chat box as we go. I'll come back to them. Then we're going to do a Q&A towards the end after we've done the breakout session as well. So what I thought I'd do is consider first different leadership styles. And there are three main ones in my experience. Number one is crisis leadership. Now, if you've got somebody in a crisis and the building's on fire or the enemy is at the gate, wherever it is, the leadership style is likely to be much more directional. Do this, do that, you go there, much more command driven, much more directive, much more assertive, to make sure the crisis is fended off. Now, crises tend to be short-lived, and I saw the tragic news and updates coming out of Afghanistan in Kabul, when you've got these people scrambling to get on the last planes to get out. They've got the Chinooks taking people off the buildings, and they've got the Galaxies out there taking people out. Real crisis over there. The leadership style for that was going to be highly directive, and Gareth has got a lot more experience. These sort of things, we'll be able to embellish these stories a lot more and that type of thing. When you're under pressure and under crisis point, you need a particular type of leadership, and you can see this terms up in politics. Look at Boris Johnson over in the UK. Bless him. Not going to talk about politics, but I don't think he signed up for this COVID situation. I happen to think the UK has done a pretty good job, actually, because it's been in crisis mode for the last 20 months with all the vaccinations, all the lockdowns, everything's been going on with it. And Boris seems to have he's the leader for that. He's been through crisis, he's made things happen, and away we go. Now we'll see what happens when the UK comes back into some sort of normality. Is he going to be the leader for the normal UK rather than the crisis UK? And this happens with lots of leaders as well. So leadership styles can be situational as well. If you're a crisis leader and you're very, very highly directional, then you probably won't be that good at growth when you're going to be a visionary leader. So a visionary leader is probably what we're looking at for most of you people on the call, because your business is in growth mode. You want to grow, build, and develop. And I was speaking with a client earlier on. We wrapped up about 10 minutes ago, and he's in the martial arts sector, as it happens. And he said, well, look, I've been thinking about martial arts. He said, I took your book away on holiday. I read your book. I thought, well, okay, great, that's really good. He said, but what I'm thinking of doing is taking all the things I know about martial arts, and I'm going to apply the same principles to other sports. And we're talking about tennis and swimming and football and this sort of thing. And he's got this amazing, fabulous idea about growing his business into martial arts, but also expanding outside of martial arts as well. Fantastic. That's a visionary, growth-based leadership. Particular skills for that. And this is where I think for you guys, for all of us, we tend to need to be visionary leaders. We also need to be directional crisis leaders as well. We've got to dip into both. I think whenever stuff happens in people's businesses, good stuff and not so good stuff, we've got to dip into both of those areas. We've got to dip into the crisis, directional leadership style. Conversation this morning with another client, and something's happened. A key person is due to move on from the business, which happens in business. So what do? Do you crumble and crash and burn, or do you dust yourself down, pick yourself up, get over it, get on with it, build and grow, treat it as an opportunity, and build a business? Because we've got no choice. So we need to be, I think, for business owners, I include myself in this, is crisis and directional ability. You've got to be good under pressure. You've got to be able to cope with the crisis. You've got to come out swinging and do what you've got to do. And you've got to be visionary. You can't just be one or the other. What I found is if you get great visionary leaders, they have a goal, a vision, a dream, and they're great while things are going well. When things don't go quite so well, those type of people, the only visionary type leaders, they tend to crumble under the pressure. If you get a directional crisis-based leader, they're great in a crisis, they're good at fighting fires and all that sort of thing. If they're only good at doing that, when it comes to growing a business, they tend not to be able to do that either. They tend to create the fires so they can put them out. And I did that. In my background, I used to be a sort of troubleshooter for an industrial group back in the day. My goodness, back in the 80s, this was. And my job was to go to where there was a company struggling, where they weren't doing well, and to go and fix it, to go and troubleshoot it. I did about 8 or 9, I think. And then I was taken out of that role after about 5 or 6 years. I said, okay, here's a company, and I want you to go and run it. It's doing well, it's growing. Go and grow it. Go and do something. It's not broken. Go and just grow it and develop it. After about 3 months, my chairman came to see me, and he said, "You're doing it again." He said, "You're creating fires so you can put them out." I was great at putting fires out, great at fighting and sorting stuff out, not great at growth. I had to learn to be a growth type leader as well. So these are the two areas we need as business owners to focus on, in my opinion. The third area is stability leadership, which is managing a stable business. And I did quite a bit of research actually for this workshop, looking around at leadership styles and books and content. If you Google leadership, I thought the beagle had come in for a minute, sorry about that. If you Google leadership, you can find so much stuff on leadership, and there'll be the 15 points of leadership, the 13 steps, the 11 ideas, the 15 principles. There's so much stuff on leadership. It is everywhere. What I looked at, just to check on the check and balances, I think most of the leadership books that are out there are actually about stability type leadership, holding the fort, keeping people happy, keeping the business running, corporate type leadership, mid to large size company leadership. And a lot of it is all to do with being humble, humility, gratitude, putting other people first. Now that's all very good, absolutely. But you can't be that humble if you're going to be growing an entrepreneurial business, because you've got to start pushing and growing and developing. And yeah, exactly, cotton mill management, there you go. So a lot of the content that is out there is, in my experience and my opinion, outdated, it's old, and it's all about managing a stable organization. Because in a lot of large organizations, and some people on the call, they know these large organizations, they've worked in them. They don't want things to change. They don't want to grow particularly. They want stability, predictability. They want certainty. They want people who are staying in place, doing their job, and being productive and being happy. But it's really managing the status quo. In business, in small businesses, like we've got SMEs and growth businesses, we want to sort of shake it up a little bit. 2 reasons for that. One, and I do find this a lot, if you get a visionary growth leader go into a very stable organization, they really don't do well, because the people there, the employees, the team they've already got, aren't visionary growth type people. So if you're going to have this visionary growth aspect to your style, you've got to draw people into you who think like that and appreciate that and will follow you. The key trait of a leader is that they are followed by other people, willing followers. Now, if you've got people who appreciate, directional leadership, and they appreciate growth, they appreciate vision and all this sort of excitement that goes on, those are people you want to draw in to your organization, not the ones that value stability and predictability and very gentle approach to things, because they won't help you grow your business. Now, at some point, you do need people in the organization that are more stable. But when you're in growth mode, you want people who are going to go on that journey with you. Stefan and Sandrine may tell you on maybe on the breakouts later on that they're a very good experience of doing this, and it's working out really well. I'll let them tell the story. But you could bring in somebody into the team that's got the right attitude and perspective that's enabling great things to happen in the business, that if it wasn't that person, probably wouldn't have happened, or not quite so fast. So those are the three types. I think we've got to be focusing on 80% visionary and maybe 20% crisis and directional. Depends on the business or where it is. But we've got to be able to do both. Without those things, if we're not good at visionary, we can't just do directional, and vice versa. And in terms then of, well, who have you got to lead? Who do you lead? Now, if you're working in a big organization, you've got to lead your team, and that's it. So you've got to lead your team as you build and grow your team, whether you're in the martial arts sector with your instructors, or whether you're in any other sector at all, you're in the accounting business with other accountants or the legal business, you've got to lead your team. But also on top of that, you need to also lead the clients. There's an expectation in the SME sector that your clients will want you to be leading the business, ideas, innovation, creativity. You're having relationships with your clients in terms of customer service. They expect you to be led, or you to lead them through this sort of thing with ideas. I think everybody on the call here that I can see is in a leadership role with their clients, customers, or students. And certainly in the martial arts world, there's a high expectation that you will lead your students and their parents through their gradings, their belts, their instruction, both on the personal development side and the skill side. But so you've got to be in the leadership role for the clients as well. To a degree, I think it's what in the business I'm in as well. Hence, we do the workshops where leading and working with our clients in terms of ideas and innovation, inspiration, and being at ahead, if you like, to a certain extent. You're also going to lead your families. It's something that doesn't appear in a lot of the leadership books. If you're in a corporate world, they tend to sort of, they call it having work-life balance. You clock in, you clock out, you go home, that's it, work separate. It doesn't apply to us because work and life is the same thing. I don't think we need work-life balance. I think we need work and life to be combined in a balanced way. But how many of us on here really, when you finish work in the office, you clock out at 5 o'clock, whatever it is, how many people are checking emails, thinking, doing calls, doing research, doing stuff, and it overlaps into personal life as well. So you've got to be able to lead your family as well. You may have family, you may be working with your partner, your husband, your wife, your brothers or sisters. The family might be involved in the business. So you have to be able to lead the family through this. If you're away working really hard and they're not spending a lot of time with the family from time to time, well, then you've got to be a leader of what the family expects you to do as well. You may want to bring your family into the business. We're a family firm. I work full in, as you know. So we have a family business. And it's not just for me to lead the family, we have to lead in terms of how the family operates, because John works in the business as well. He does all our marketing and tech and web, that sort of thing, as you know. So there's 3 of us in our business, just in the family. That gives its own stresses and strains as well. Anybody with a family business will know this. So you have to be the leader for the family as well. And finally, you've got to be leaders of yourselves and myself as well. And what I mean by that is if you want to be on your top game in the business, then we have to look after ourselves in terms of our knowledge, our health and well-being, our approach, our guidance, our skills. We have to lead ourselves through this because we're our own product. So this is where it gets quite sort of complicated to an extent. So we've got the 3 types of leadership, but we're also much more fragmented because we have high expectations placed on us by our family, our team, our clients, and obviously ourselves as well. For me, I think it starts with self. How do you lead yourself? It's personal standards, personal ambitions and goals, and what do you stand for? What are your values? What are your beliefs and mindset and attitudes? What are you bringing to the business? And you've got to be really consistent with that, which then permeates through into other aspects of the business as well. But where we're leaders in all sorts of areas. In terms of the rules of being a great leader, and again, there's so many materials out, so many books and stuff out there. I think if I've boiled it down into what I think are the three primary rules and responsibilities of leadership, and this can be taken into any business sector or anything you like at all. But number one is the vision. From a team perspective, the team will follow you if they know where you're going, and they're going to be like, where are we going? You know, where are we off to? Where are you taking us? Where do you want us to follow you to? So what's the vision for the business? And if I spoke to maybe members of your team or your colleagues and said, okay, what's the vision for this business? What would they say? Would they know what are they building? Where are they going to go? What's it going to look like in the future? And the question is, of course, do you know? Because leadership of self is to know where you're going to be going to. And for all of us who own our own business, our future is so dependent on our business future that we can run them parallel. But we need to know, what do we want? What's the vision for ourselves? What's the goal? What's the objective? And what does the business need to look like to get us there? But vision, people will only follow you if they know where they're going to go. And so many organizations, companies, they have no idea where they're going. They have a vision statement in the reception or something that nobody's ever read, nobody's ever heard of it, and basically it applies to nobody. So being really clear on the vision of the organization is absolutely clear. The next one, in my experience, again, this is just boiling them down to three key things, is the mission. Well, how are we going to get there? What business are we in? Now, if you're in the dating business, for example, your mission will be fulfilled through creating excellence in the matching business and making people find their perfect partners, for example. That's how you're going to do it. So the vision could be the same, to build a fabulous business that can be, sold or built or whatever it was, but how you're going to do it is different for all of us. So for me, we're going to build our mission is to get our vision by leveraging through franchising of coaching and training and expanding outwards to a certain extent. That's how we're going to do it. That's your strategic choice as well. If you're in the martial arts business, how are you going to get there? What is it going to be? Through more academies? Is it through franchising or licensing? Or are you going to open up new income streams? How are you going to achieve this thing? What's the mission? How will you get there? And be really clear on that. You need to know that as a business owner, but also for your team as well. They need to follow you through it. And then finally, the goal is, well, when we're going to get there? What's the target date? When's this thing finished? Most businesses are never finished, and they're always just work in progress all the time. Businesses go through stages of development, and we're in our 19th year now of this business. And we've been through several stages of growth and development and change and growth, all that sort of thing, in a good way. But every time we have a 5-year goal, and we renew it every, obviously, 5 years. So we've got 2 years left on this cycle to go for our 4th 5-year goal. And one of the ones we wanted to have was have offices, live and work out of France, offices in France, work out of Luxembourg, and clients all over the world. And we've sort of done that pretty much. So now we've got the franchise objective to go for as well, but be really clear. What do you want to do? So what's the vision? How are we going to get there? Strategically, what's the choices? Those are your choices, and the goal, when we're going to get there. Now, that is how you can lead people. If they know those three things, they can make a choice. Either they follow you through with that, or they bail. They don't want to be involved with it. People leaving is a good thing. It sounds very harsh, but if you're very clear on your vision, your mission, your goals, your standards, your values, everything that goes with it, if you're really clear on that and people don't want to be part of it, good, because they won't support you in the way to get there. When you start talking about these things to attract people into the organization, when you tell people, here's the vision, here's where we're going, here's how we're going to do it, and they get excited by that, they'll help you get there because they get excited by it. They just do. Those are the people you want to bring into the team. Those people are easier to lead. So if people leave you from time to time, can be a good thing. It's team, not family for everybody. It's a team business that you're in. Obviously, if it's a family firm as well, you're sort of tied together to a certain extent. But if people leave because they don't buy it or they don't get it, they don't understand it, good, that's okay. Bring people in that do. But if you're really clear on these things, then this is how you're going to attract the right people to you that get it and they're excited by it as well. So the first thing is, what is your vision? What is your mission? How are you going to get there? Strategic choices, this type of thing. And then what's the key date for it? And then that's all you need to have like pinned on the wall to lead people through it. Then there are some guides, some sort of rules of how do you operate as a leader. So you've got the vision, the mission, the goal. That's great. There's some principles that I think great leaders tend to abide by. Number one is calm. Good leaders tend to be calm under pressure. They do that number one thing under the pressure response or directional leadership, but they're calm as they do it. I remember years ago when I was in the packaging industry, I actually recruited a guy who was on the Polaris submarine projects, and he was a submariner. He was a little tiny guy, sort of a stereotype submariner, short guy, very, very good, lovely, lovely fella. And we got talking. I remember one day he said to me, he said, they were going under the ice caps or something in the Polaris submarine, and something went wrong. And I don't know what it was, he wouldn't tell me, but you're under the ice in a nuclear submarine, something goes wrong, it's sort of got the potential not to end well. And he said he could feel the tension on the bridge. He was even an officer, tension on the bridge, and they're looking at all the protocols were there, everybody knew what to do, they're doing all the right things. Then he said the captain turned up on deck. He said once the captain turned up, he said we knew everything was going to be okay, because he just approached, went in, organized, kept calm. Now, how he was feeling internally, I've no idea. These are highly trained professional leaders, captains of nuclear subs. But the calmness that you put out, you don't want to scare the horses. So staying calm under pressure is a real skill, because if you go into overload, if you lose it, if you start panicking, I guarantee then the team are going to panic as well. They look to you, they look to us as leaders to be calm under pressure. However you feel outside the spotlight, maybe a little bit different, but keep calm under pressure, because that's a key gift of good leadership. In my experience, I've worked with some great leaders, I've worked with some not so great leaders as well. Calm is an irritating calmness is a good trait to have. Charismatic. I don't mean you've got to be everybody's best friends and liked and loved by everybody, but certainly strength of personality, such that you can influence and persuade people about your ideas, your vision, your values, your ideals as well. Most leaders have a very strong personality. Think of any leader that you can think of in the world, from Branson to Elon Musk to anybody at all. They've got this charismatic approach to them. You want to hang out with them, you want to go for a beer with them, you want to have dinner with these guys and gals and see what makes them really tick. They have this strength of personality. So being charismatic, now you can learn charisma, but you can also let it out as well, letting your personality shine through to attract the right people in for you. So charismatic, or being charismatic, is a key strength. And consistency. People trust what they can predict. So if you want people to trust you, they've got to know what they're going to get. And I was given a perfect example of this in my career when I was working at the airport over in Heathrow. And the guy that I worked with, he was a senior guy on site. I didn't know this when I started to work there. He was an alcoholic, and he was drinking probably a bottle of vodka every morning, literally a full bottle of vodka in the morning, and then he was good for the day. Now, when he'd been drinking, he was okay, actually. he was charming, relaxed, he was polite, he was all right. He could operate on alcohol. If he hadn't had a drink in the mornings, he was a complete nightmare, an absolute nightmare. He was angry, bitter, twisted, bullying, he was just aggressive, not nice at all. So we had a little system. When we came to the office in the morning, we'd have a method. We had mugs on the shelf. If the mug was the right way up, it means he'd been drinking, so we were okay. That's good. If he hadn't been drinking, the mugs were upside down, and we would just not go and talk to him. And then the danger was, or the problem was, it wasn't the fact that he was angry and bitter and twisted and that sort of thing, or he was friendly and charming and charismatic. The problem was we couldn't predict what we were going to get, nor could the clients. Nobody had any idea what was this person going to look like or behave like when they came in the room. You couldn't predict it. That unpredictability was horrible. Now, I'm not suggesting anybody here is drinking a bottle of vodka. And if, by the way, if you're a bit angry and a bit bitter, vodka's not the way to cure it, all right? But consistency is. Consistency in your behaviors, your approach, your timing, the way you treat people is absolutely clear, because you can be consistently anything you like. If you're consistently excited or loud or whatever it is, doesn't matter, just do it all the time. be consistent so people can predict what they're going to get, and predictability equals trust and also likability to a certain extent as well. So consistency is key. A coaching approach, and this is not a plug, but what I find with leaders where they will guide people, they will develop them, they'll guide them, they'll grow them through a coaching style approach, not a tell type approach, but allowing them to grow, allowing them to learn, giving them responsibility. And again, I'm going to pick on Sandrine and Stefan because they introduce a new a person into their team, and they'll tell you all about it on the breakout. Not for now, you're quite safe, but where the person came from outside of the industry, outside of their industry, but they had the right sort of personality and style, and they have done, in my opinion, an excellent job. They've coached this person into the business such that he's become a real asset. He's a lovely guy, does a great job, and they haven't told him what to do. They've enabled him to do a fabulous job, and they'll tell you more about that on the breakout. So a coaching style approach is very, very strong. And also the other one, the fifth one, I think, is creativity. Great leaders tend to be very, very creative because they think of new ways through things. Given a challenge, given a problem, given a crisis, they stay calm, they think, and they go, right, we'll do this. We're going to do this time, this way now. Okay, great. They take responsibility for it, but they have a creative approach. So in all the traits of leadership, which there are thousands of them, these are the ones that I see on a regular basis that perform the best. Calm, charismatic, consistent, coaching approach, and creative. And you can build that in, or sort of check yourselves around that area, then you'll probably find that people will start to follow you and you'll get more success. I'm not suggesting anybody here is not, calm and charismatic, but you can just check, do a bit of an audit, if you like. How, in terms of calmness, if you're working as a husband and wife team, for example, just check the other one. How calm are you? I might check with Lynn later on to see how calm she thinks I am, or whatever it is. Is there a coaching approach, and are you creative? Those traits enable leaders, in my experience, to do a great job with their business, to think creatively, to overcome challenges and problems. And also people want to follow these people. That's the real essence of it. You want to be around these sort of people because it's good for them, good for the business, and good for their careers as well. In terms then of some of the key traits, just some patterns to watch out for. Number one is, I think, trust on evidence. Good leaders don't trust what they're told. They don't believe what they're told. They trust on evidence. So a great pattern here, somebody says something to you. Here's a great idea. I've done this, and this, whatever it is. Show me. Show me the evidence. Show me the numbers. Show me the details. Show me whatever it is. Show me. Now, it's not that you don't trust them, but if you can get your team, from a leadership perspective, and I had this with one of the guys I used to work for back in the day, where I would go to a meeting and he'd say, how the numbers in your operation, whatever it was, my operations division, and it wouldn't allow me to tell him. I had to show them with numbers and a sheet and a document. Here's what we've done this month. Here's what we've done this quarter. Here's the sales, the profit, the cash, whatever it was. Show me. It shows that they have understanding of it, but also you can trust their numbers, not just what they say. So good leaders tend to be very sort of not mistrustful at all, but they do have checks and balances in there to make sure what they're being told and what they're being guided to do is true and is correct. And if in doubt, look for evidence and show me, get some numbers and data to back it up for you. They tend to communicate really well. They communicate really well, and they communicate a lot with their teams. They let people know what's going on. They're highly visible, not just on social media, but they're visible. There used to be an old phrase back in the 90s called management by walking around, just visible by walking around. But they don't hide away. Be visible, be open to your team to come talk to you. Let them know what's going on. Tell them everything about the business. Now, whether you want to share every financial detail of the business, that's up to you, but let them know what's going on. New contracts we've won, this is the growth we've achieved, this has happened, that's happening, here's the good stuff, here's the not so good stuff. Let them know. They might as well, if you trust them and they trust you, they'll trust you with the good news, and they'll trust you with the bad news as well. Because if you give them bad news, what immediately happens is they'll know that they can trust you to lead them out of it, get them out from under the ice in that Polaris sub and all that sort of thing. They trust you. So give them the good news and the bad news. And if you give people just good news all the time, they see through it because it's not true. We know, everybody knows in business there's good news and there's positive news. There's also maybe some not quite so good news as well. So communicate all the time, let them know what's going on, and be visible towards them. When I was running this wood mill down in Bristol, my chairman would turn up occasionally, and he would walk onto the shop floor, not come to me, see me first, onto the shop floor. He'd walk around the shop floor, and we had about 80 people working there at the time, a big wood mill. He knew everybody, but by name. He'd walk over to them. Hi, Bob. Hi, Helen. Hi, Karen. How are you doing? And he'd remember something about them as well. How's the kids? How's the dog? How's the holiday? And sort of thing. It's like, wow, they thought that he knew, they're not best friend, but he was really interested in what they were doing. And he was interested, but he was highly visible. He communicated with them and he made it personal, and they loved him, well, not loved him, but they respected him and they liked him. And he was a great leader. And he came down once a quarter to see us. And it was great. And he did the same thing with me, but taught me a couple of lessons as well in terms of, communicate, not just business wise, be involved with the team and be visible in front of them. Don't hide away. Even if you're on Zoom, don't hide away too much. Next one is responsibility. This is, I think, probably the dominant factor. And I think it was Gareth who mentioned this, and Gareth will give you this in the breakout. But if something goes wrong within an organization, I think I'm going to not bring Gareth onto the call because I'm never shut him up. But anyway, but he was saying about in the military, if somebody does something wrong, or if somebody under your control does something wrong or breaks something or whatever it is, then it's not really their fault. It's the fact that you haven't trained them, guided them, recruited them properly. And that's a really tough thing as a rule to have, but it's true. We are responsible for our teams. If something goes wrong in the team, well, then it lays with me, my team, and you and your team, and that sort of thing as well. It applies to all of us. So we've got to take responsibility for our organization's performance and our teams. If we don't like what the team are doing, we've got to train them, guide them, coach them, or change them. One of those things. Now, you change them is the last thing you do, obviously, but we've got to guide them, and it's our responsibility to hire the right people, lead the right people, guide them and train them so they do a fabulous job. And if they don't, it reflects on us. We are overall responsible for our team. If you find a leader that is blaming their team for things going wrong, well, they're not leaders. They're a manager, potentially. At best, they're a manager. But I see it a lot. If I go to large companies, mentioning no names, and you speak to one of their managers and say, how's things going? Oh, of course, well, it's the team. It's the team. They don't care. They don't work. They're lazy. They want to work from home. They do this, they do that. They don't do this, they don't do that. Huh. Well, interesting. Who's the leader? Oh, well, but I'm not the leader. I didn't recruit them. I didn't train them. I didn't select them. I've just been given this team, and it's abdication of authority and responsibility. We can't do that in the SME, small to medium-sized business sector. There's no way we can do that. We can't not just get away with it. It's not appropriate. We've got to take responsibility, and then we've got to act on it as well. Make sure that we're taking the responsibility and acting on it as we go along. So these are key things. And I think a lot of people on the call here, I know you guys do this, but it's just whether as a refresher to make sure that you take absolute responsibility for yourself and your business and the team results as well. It's a very harsh one, harsh rule, but we've got no way. Lynn tells me if anything goes wrong in our business, it's my fault, for example, which is great. So thanks very much. I'm joking, by the way, I'm joking. And next one is then pace and decision making. Leaders move at a heck of a pace. They do things quickly. They make decisions. They tend to make decisions fast. They tend to get on with things, and they bring an energy to the business, especially when you're in this growth mode. If you're in that third level stability mode, you don't need this because you just go at the same pace as the business. But for what you're doing and what I'm doing in our sector, we've got to be having high level of pace. Movement is key in leadership. Decision-making is key. Don't procrastinate. Don't put things off. Get on with it. Just make things happen. And I was speaking to another client earlier on. He said, I've got this idea. I'm going to get this guy to work with as a partnership thing. He said, so I've got the partnership idea sorted out. He said, over the weekend, I built the website. I went, wow, that's amazing. Built the website. All done, all in place. He said, of course, all I've got to do now is get him to agree to it. So he hasn't got the partner agreed yet, but he's built the website. He said, well, if he doesn't do it, I'll do it with somebody else. Okay, well, that's great. That's fantastic. So pace is key. You've got to go a bit faster than your group and your team go, or a bit faster than your clients go, a bit faster than your family go. Be ahead of the pack. But decision making and pace are really key, especially if you're in growth mode. You've got to go a little bit faster than the competition as well. The ability to think quick and the ability to make decisions and take the risk of it going wrong and the responsibility for it to go wrong are really, I think, are key traits of good leaders. And for most of everybody on here knows, you make a decision and you hope it's going to work. If it doesn't, what do you do? Well, you fix it and you sort it out, you get on with it. So pace and decision making has a feedback loop inside of it as well. So watch out for that. If you find yourself going too slow, or you find your team overtaking you, then just watch out for it. But pace and decision making, absolutely key as well. And I thought about this one because this is something that I find a lot of the leadership books and content talk about being servant leadership. They're to serve their team, to be humble, to have humility, to have gratitude, and to be the sort of very, very supporter of the team. And I get it. I do understand it. I get it. Gratitude is good. A bit of humility, a little bit of humility is okay. But actually, if you look at top leaders, leadership people in roles of growth or crisis areas, not just the stable side of it, they're actually independent free spirits. They're actually quite not abrasive, but they're sort of, they are moving at such a pace. They're not very humble. They're not very high level of humility. I can't imagine Richard Branson being very humble, or Elon Musk or anything like that. Now, I'm not saying you've got to go and be Genghis Khan out there, but I think it's absolutely fine and appropriate to be a bit unique, a bit different, a bit special, and not particularly be the warmest, cuddliest person on the planet. And I'm not saying you've got to do your attack mode, but a lot of leaders, especially in the work that I do, a lot of my clients and connections and contacts are, and I'll put this very nicely, are slightly in a positive way, slightly abrasive. They're determined, they get on with things, they're not too, they don't really bother if people don't like it too much. Off they go and get on with it. And a little bit of that, I think, is a key leadership trait. You've got to be okay with being slightly sort of unpopular, breaking a few eggs and all this sort of thing. I can think of a number of cliches for you, but I think it's okay to be independent, free-spirited and free-minded, to do things different than other people and not just to follow the herd. Be prepared to stand out from the crowd and get a little bit of, a bit of criticism as well, maybe. Got to be okay with that, because if you want to grow and build your business to make it something unique and special, other people won't get it. They don't understand. So you've got to be that independent free spirit. So I don't buy all this stuff about being humble, servant leadership and this type of thing. It sounds like we're begging people to follow us. Now, we do want to be, pleasant. We want people to follow us, of course we do, but independent, strong-minded. Of all the people on the call here, I can see everybody on here, I know pretty much everyone. Every one of you has got strong independent streak. You just have. It's a good thing. You got to keep it. You're strong-willed, independently minded, and that's what keeps you safe from everything. But so keep it. As a business grows, just keep it, because it's a key skill in my experience anyway. So the independence, and don't worry too much about being humble and being too much humility in my experience. But there we go. That's just me talking there. So those are the key patterns and traits that I've experienced of business owners and leadership, that sort of thing. I'm going to invite you now to go into the breakout rooms, if that's okay. And we've got something going to be for me 3 or 4 groups, maybe 3, perhaps 4 people per group, and just have a discussion between yourselves around what is your level of clarity of vision for yourselves and your business, and sort of pitch it to each other, get understanding around that. What is your leadership style? What is your leadership style? How would you rate yourself as a leader? And what could you build in to change and adapt? And everybody on here has got some fabulous stories about leadership and breaking through. Okay. Fabulous. Thank you. Yeah, I've got a message here from Alain Drina. Thank you for joining. And I'll get the video will come out anyway, so you can have a look at it in your own time. Good to have you on the call. What is your leadership style? How could you grow, build, and develop and improve? And also, what challenges do you think you face in terms of your leadership style, recruiting people, leading people, and see what other tips and ideas you can build in from other people in the group. So before I could do that, any questions from anybody? Everybody happy? Everybody happy with that? So we've done that. Well, look happy. Excellent. Okay, you're starting. Excellent. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to pause the recording. I'm not going to record the breakouts. So pause.